insurance to drive on the road, not because we genuinely want to have a motor insurance. So these are kind of things that kind of areas where things will change significantly, will have to change as we go forward. And want to kind of create a more sustainable model of development across the piece. If you look, and I'm not going to each one of them because that doesn't make any sense. But if you look at all this is actual hard data, you see India still kind of, so on the life side, we are not that bad in terms of insurance penetration, which is the amount of premium written to the GDP. Well, globally it's about 3.3, we are still about zero point 0.5 units away, but we are still far better off. When you compare that with the non-life thing, which is about 0.93, which is about one third of what the total globally the number is. In terms of premium collected, you can also argue the premium collected, though I've shown you the data in fairness, it is also probably not a very good data to kind of concentrate much on, because after all, these are all in dollar terms, and the currency rupee does not help. The devaluing rupee does not help. But the saving grace on this is the spending on the payouts and all of that is also in rupee terms. So in that sense, the ratio, the pain and the payouts are the same. Therefore, conversion in dollar terms may not actually be a very good representation, but just to kind of give you an idea as to what it kind of looks like. This is where the global thing that I've taken the top 8, we've come nowhere. Only Japan and South Korea are the two Asian countries which kind of come in there. There's still a certain amount of change from the earlier ones. Globally, the global numbers have gone up, but in most other parts of the world, the 2017 number has been slightly lower than the 2000. In some cases, of the advanced markets, as you can see. If I look at the emerging market story by the same logic, China is at number 2, India is at number 11. And you can see China in 318. If I go back, so China is somewhere kind of that shows up in emerging Asia and emerging markets that kind of show. But India is still, and then let's not compare that with Brazil and Mexico, saying that we are better than them. Well, look at our population, look at our complexity, look at our size. Brazil might be bigger in terms of land mass because it's one of the largest countries in South America, but the population is much smaller. So all of that kind of shows that we still have a long way to kind of go in the process. This is just, again, some data which shows the same thing, that how the insurance density, which is premium per capita, shows up. And India, as you can see, is right to the end. A tiny blurb to the right to the end, on the right hand side. Showing that we still have a huge amount to look at. But the whole point I want to make in this is we need to be sustainable. We need to think about sustainability in that whole process. As a percentage of its GDP, we are much better. But remember, the percentage of our GDP is also much smaller than some of the other countries. So therefore, some of the other countries on the right hand side, on the left hand side, and therefore the ratio might look good, but in reality, in actual terms, is actually pretty small. Now, broadly speaking, what can we do? What are the things? Guys, just tell me when you want. Give me about a couple of minutes, 5 minutes advance warning when you want me to stop, so that I can kind of wind up accordingly. So basically, this is where the sustainability story comes in. This is the broad spectrum of products that the insurance sector offers.
Sir.
There is a risk protection
model. You are having 5 minutes left.
Okay, I'll finish it back. There's a broad risk protection model and there is a savings model. And let me not read through each one of them, but there are risks, products, and all of that. The whole problem in India is that it is basically sold by the agent without taking into account the sustainable argument or sustainability argument of both the company. Actually, the three players who should be sustainable in the model: the insurance company, the insured, and the agent who's selling it. Now, what happens is, because there is a disconnect, the sustainability argument is taken out. I try to maximize my short-term gain, and who is that? Me, the agent, because the person who's buying the insurance is unaware. So that guy kind of takes whatever I tell him. The insurance company provides a product. Is the product the best product? Is the product the most sustainable and useful product going forward? Not necessarily always, and that is where the challenge lies, and that is what we need to kind of address as we go forward. So just to look at this, this is kind of taking a casework from a slide from BCG, Boston Consulting Group. So if you look at how the thing goes. If you look at it, this is how one could make it more sustainable. Because if you take the average life from around, 21, 25 is when you have your first job, what should I be talking about? I should be talking about, the first car and first house and things like that. Can I make the product, can I make the whole equation work in that model, in that sustainable argument, so that therefore there is an appropriate product that I sell? There is no point selling a car insurance or a very long-term insurance to somebody who's a senior citizen. There I should sell products which have short-term but guaranteed return kind of a story. The more risky product is what you look at, the more equity-driven product is what I should sell earlier. So this is what I mean by saying, can I select the time points in a career, in a lifetime, and look at that in that process and make it sustainable. Let me skip this, and I'm not going to skip this because this is just, in the interest of time. We should actually look at risk layering as a critical strategic tool. And that's where we should actually look at. We should actually look at what is the frequency of the event and severity of the event. And that defines also how sustainable the product would be. So if there's an event which is unlikely to happen. So for example, you are building a house on the top of a hill. And I tell you, you should build it on stilts and this and that because water can come in and it can get flooded. It's a useless argument because you're already building on the top of a hill where water will not come up. Water will flow down. So what's the point of unnecessarily putting in money and doing that, as opposed to doing it at a lower level? So I think one should actually be clear about how, and even if it happens, let's say the 40 days of rain happen and all of that, and the entire world is submerged and all of that. What's the likelihood of such an event happening? And if that happens, what will happen to you? So we should actually look at all that proposition. We cannot cover for everything. We should not try to cover for everything. We should take a probability view and we should say, okay, are we okay 95% of the times? Are we okay 99% of the times? But we can never be, and we should never attempt to be okay 100% of the times. And therefore, the protection gap, closing the protection gap becomes one of the biggest opportunities that kind of come in. So how can we close this protection gap, but not at 100% of the times? So different countries have different scales, all perils against longevity, and then some countries are doing far better than others. Because of long life in prison, this can be extended in other categories as well. But global underinsurance, heightened global risks have kind of gone up through the roof in all of that. This is only natural catastrophe losses over a close to 50-year period that I have shown out there. How can we kind of close this gap and yet not do something which is like a 1 in a million, 1 in 5 lifetime events, and try to put things around that? And that becomes the biggest opportunity to kind of look at in that thing. So this gap has kind of increased, as you can see, over the years. But the question is, do I need to match all the gaps? Just because the gap exists, do I need to go there? Do I need to catch all the balls? And the answer is not necessary. And therefore, again, bringing it back to whatever I started, obviously this entire thing hinges on the sound risk assessment and risk assessment which remains sustainable going forward. And played in that thing. You have all these risks coming in. The question is, in Japan, a tsunami is very relevant, and therefore you might want to protect for it. Yes, in India, we've had a tsunami in about 20 years back. Huge disaster. But what's the likelihood of another tsunami? And if it is not, how much money should we put in there? I think that's something we should actually care for and look at it in that session. And just 2 minutes, I'm done. Just 2 minutes, 2 slides, I think I just want to show you. And therefore, one should actually look at resilient development, which kind and sustainable development, which kind of leads to significantly reducing residual risks. The sustainable SDGs, the 17 SDGs that exist, are very relevant in that context, and therefore we should actually talk about that. In that, we should actually be very clear as to what should we be looking at, what kind of action should we take, and then I've tried to put all together in that sense how adaptive should we be, and how the development should match in terms of being sustainable and remain sustainable in that process. There are a host of risks that come in. Obviously, today, technology can kind of create a lot of solutions and generate value, and we should be open and very active in taking on the benefit of, or using the benefit of technology to generate value in that process. Let me just skip all of this. This is obviously the processes, and then this is the kind of issues that will come in. But just, I'll just stop with this one thing. that we actually need some amount of financial stability for financing sustainable for financing sustainable development, and then therefore and it is not. So while this is a precondition, it can also be the causality can go the other way around also. If you do not have a sustainable development, there cannot be financial stability. So I think we should actually work on both sides, not just on one side. And I'll stop with just one cartoon. And we cannot go with this. This is good, but realize this will not work. And then for that one person, you can actually land up, and that could create a big mess. If you look at the cartoon, for those of you, they're actually selling it for $29. But what have you done? You now price it at $1,000,000 and then you say there's a rebate of $1 million if you mail in a check back or something like that. It is when you go and sell it in the market, it's a huge bargain. People treat it as a huge bargain. But in fact, it's a huge inconvenience, because all that the company needs is actually one person failing to claim the benefit back, and then therefore there will be some rich guy, some lazy guy who will not do it. Don't miss it. Something will happen, and you will get money, but it's a short-term thing. But that will also mean that the product, somebody else is going to go and buy that. This is something you cannot keep on doing all the time, and therefore there's no point doing this. You might as well sell it directly for $29 and remain sustainable, and then try to do such things in that process. Okay, let me stop with that. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a very informative session with you. It has been an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the fraternity of the university, Adamas University, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers and the audience. Thank you. Sir, all the questions will be conveyed to our conveners, and they will be conveying it to you later. Thank you so much, sir, for joining this meeting and enlightening us with all the knowledge that you have shared till now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.